Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. My guest today is Nate Graville. He is the co-founder and CEO of the new company, Geviti. So Geviti has created a very unique concept. What they are is a telehealth company that will combine a medical practitioner, a wellness coach, and AI to create a custom protocol supplement line for you. They are going to change the way health is looked at in America, hopefully worldwide. This is the very first company that we've ever had any sort of affiliation with as far as supplements, and it's really because of the customization that they do for the individual. That's something that I've had a real issue with supplement lines in the past, different types of companies that have offered even anything similar to this. I've never really been all that attracted to, but what they've got here is something very, very special. Hope you guys enjoy. This episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. Entrepreneurial.
We got some really big things coming.
You have to have the willingness.
It's an A or B.
Try and use it as a tool.
This is phenomenal.
All details make up a person.
It's what we believe in the industry.
Geviti's in the house. The old gang is back. I love this. Hi, Eli. How are you, buddy? I miss you back there. Yeah. Nate.
What's up,
nice
buddy?
to have you.
Yeah.
Cole. Good to have you, buddy. Thanks for stepping in, man. Appreciate it. All you guys. So I'm thrilled about this one. This has been a very long time coming. Obviously not for the audience because no one's really known what's happening, but behind the scenes, you guys have been developing something very unique. And a lot of people know the background, Eli with us, with Strict Vision and what we all built here, but they don't know about what you guys have developed together. So Nate, I want to first off, just kind of hand the microphone to you, talk a little bit about first of all, how you got interested in this field to begin with and what you see the company doing from here.
Ooh, my goodness, so much to unpack. Man, I remember, how long ago was it when the podcast was still in the garage? Remember with that
Eli?
metal table?
It was like 2 years ago.
It was, I think it was
two or three.
three.
Oh, man.
Three.
Yeah,
Because we did
here we
it
are.
right when you came on. Was one of the first things we decided to do was do a podcast. Yeah.
That's closer to 4 then.
Yeah. I my guess as well.
It's nice not sweating. I mean, that was a hot, makeshift setup. This is awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Having you back. How
Yeah,
many
having me
episodes
back.
have we done now? Is this
This is
two or
number
three?
two.
Number two.
Yeah.
Awesome, bro. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Yeah.
Me
So the
too.
last time we talked about pretty much just entrepreneurial mindset, but now we really got something to talk about. So
Yeah.
apologies. Please
Yeah.
continue. Yes.
So Geviti, I mean, we're 2 years in the making. I mean, I've obviously always been into health and wellness. We've trained together for a very long time, you and I. But I never had a calling to necessarily get into the industry, right? I had done well enough from past ventures and was sort of, waiting around for the right thing. And a few years ago, I lost my father, as you know, to cancer. And that was a very strong driver to come up with some sort of solution that can prevent people from having to experience what I experienced. My father was a generally healthy guy. He trained, 5 days a week, but he didn't care about anything else. He did not have nutrition in mind. He didn't get his blood work done. He'd go years without getting his blood work done. And it's one thing to do the right things, but you don't still really know what's happening inside unless you go in and check, unless you go in and look at what's under the hood. And he didn't do that. So, he was symptomatic. Then he went in for screening, stage 4, spread everywhere from his lungs to his brain.
Stage 4 cancer.
Yeah. Stage 4 cancer. Lungs to brain. It was too late. It had spread too far. Oh man, I don't even know if I should say this on the podcast, but he got the COVID vaccine, and 2 weeks later, that was it. So, I don't know necessarily what happened there. He obviously had lung cancer. They still thought it was fine to give him the vaccine.
Yeah.
And then, he kicked it. Anyway, that spun off to, this concept. How can we make health screening so accessible and remove all of the friction from the process? The reason why people go many years without getting their blood work done is because there's so much friction in the process, right? I mean, you have to call your primary care physician and wait until they can get you in. And sometimes they won't even draw your blood there. They'll send you off to a LabCorp request, and then you're 2 appointments in, you're, probably weeks out by that point. And a lot of times the PCP isn't even going to look at everything that they probably should be looking at. Their idea of a full panel oftentimes doesn't test for more than 20 biomarkers. And so, the first problem I wanted to solve was, can we remove friction from, this process, this screening process? And that was an easy enough solve. We were able to do that. So through a few different ways. Initially, we have the at-home phlebotomy. So we'll send a phlebotomist out to your house to draw your blood. And with those panels, it's really cool. We're looking at anywhere between 67 to 85 biomarkers.
Wow.
Way more than what your primary care physician is going to, set you up with.
Yeah.
So, and let me disclaim, I'm not a doctor.
Right, yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur.
I'll throw that disclaimer at the beginning of the entire thing. No one in this room is a doctor.
Yes. Luckily I've been fortunate enough to talk to a lot of very, very smart people. I consider them some of the smartest people in the world, experts across many fields, and have sort of been a sponge to everything that they've thrown at me. And I've been fortunate enough to have those conversations and develop an opinion about certain things. And, our medical advisory board is very strong. Our medical team's very strong. But I do default to the experts. So if we're getting into the nitty gritty on anything, let's disclaim, not a doctor, informational purposes only.
It's also, one thing that was left out in that equation, because I've gone through blood work and blood panels, oh goodness, dozens and dozens of times over my life. I was one of the weird people who actually got blood work even when it was such a pain in the ass to get it. Even after you get to LabCorp and you get your results, then your results come back. And a lot of times, because I was doing this through a naturopath, then you wait, then you go back to the naturopath, and then if the naturopath knows what he's doing, he can read and explain your results to you. Mine never even did that. Mine, because again, I don't believe he was doing more than the 20 biomarkers that you mentioned. And he got me on stuff that really messed me up for a while. Like if you are with somebody who does not have the expertise in these types of things, you can be a naturopath and not be an expert in hormones. HRT, all that kind of stuff is that's a specialty. You have to know what it is that you're doing. And especially back, I think, even 5 years ago, this was not as widespread and accepted as it's become. Would you agree that that's specifically targeting TRT?
Yeah, I think COVID is to blame for a lot of this, this shift in focus of our health. Also
blame in almost a good way.
Yeah, definitely in a good way. I think people have realized that maybe the traditional medical system hasn't had our best interests for however long now, several decades probably. I don't want to over speculate, but I think people are starting to realize that and are gravitating towards a more holistic, approach to care.
Your health is in your care. It's not do not rely on your doctor to take care of you.
Absolutely.
You need to take care of you.
Yeah. And use a data-driven approach, right? The issue is to retrieve enough data to make it actionable. You have to test for a lot of biomarkers, which is what we do. So to get back to that, we have the phlebotomy. But we also have some other really cool testing modalities. We have these at-home finger prick test kits. So let's just say, somebody comes to us and their testosterone is really, really low. Let's say they're, 250 nanogram per deciliter, which is low for anybody.
Yeah.
Let's say we get them on some sort of hormone therapy or hormone therapy alternative, and it doesn't make sense to send a phlebotomist back out to that user's house or person's house, patient's house, member's house, a month later. It's just not economic. It makes way more sense to send a kit to their house that allows them to actually self-prick their finger, put it on a little card, send that back through the mail with a prepaid shipping label, and spot check specific biomarkers rather than, having to have a phlebotomist poke you with a needle and draw several vials of blood. It's just a lot more efficient. So that's one of the other testing modalities that we include in Geviti. And then this is my favorite. We have a DNA methylation or an epigenetic test that looks at your DNA methylation patterns to determine your biological age, which is really, really cool. So there's a lot of different ways that people...
to determine your biological age. Is there a difference in the understanding of what that is, your biological age? What does that mean? The difference between I'm 33.
Chronologically, you're 33, but biologically, you might be older or younger.
Based on what exactly?
Well, there's a lot of different ways that people, test this. Used to, the most widely used way in a clinical setting was measuring the lengths of your telomeres, which are the end caps of your chromosome. As we age, those get shorter. And that was up until, the last decade, the best way of measuring your biological age, determining your biological age. Now there's a test out there that analyzes your DNA methylation patterns to give you a more accurate depiction. Epigenetic technology has gotten so good over the past 20 years. It's unreal, and it's set to get even better. So anyway, we're able to analyze your DNA methylation patterns and determine your biological age. And this is a really cool thing because it provides us the ability to show people the regimens that Geviti is creating for our members actually has a direct impact on the rate in which they age. In some cases, you can reverse your biological age. In others, you can slow the rate in which you age. At the very least, it's good to know, where do you stand? I took a biological age test, and I've been, grinding for the last 2 years, high stress. Come to find out I'm actually like 0.3 years older biologically than I am chronologically.
And you're how old?
26.
Chronologically. And so how old biologically? You're 20...
25 chronologically, 26, a little over 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
Biologically.
Yeah. So something like that.
Okay.
So that's a test that we offer. It's really awesome. It comes in this little kit. It's a buccal swab. You swab your cheek. You send it back again with a prepaid shipping label. Our labs analyze it, and we send the results back through our Geviti application.
Okay. Sticking with this concept, this is very fascinating. Slowing or stalling your biological age. First of all, how does one do that? Can it be done on their own, independent of taking supplementation? And if not, what supplementation do you guys give that actually does slow your biological age?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a question more geared towards our care team. So, Geviti has a care team assigned to each individual who's a Geviti member that is comprised of a health coach and a medical provider. And collectively, they put together a plan geared towards increasing longevity, which is both increasing health span and lifespan. Not just how long are you living, but how healthy are you during those years. Yes, you can slow down and even in some cases reverse your biological age. This is proven. It's just, matter of fact at this point. The issue is there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You need to retrieve large amounts of data on the individual to have a full understanding of their health context, to be able to actually implement a plan that is going to be the most effective in slowing the rate in which you age, or, like I said, in some cases, reversing that.
You mentioned stress as one of your biomarkers when you took your test. As if I'm reading that correctly, stress can be an indicator of your biological age speeding up. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's various things that affect our epigenetics, and stress is definitely one of those things. If you're in a high stress situation, you're going to age faster than if you augment that or are able to mitigate that. I don't do a good enough job at doing that. I
think a lot of us would probably answer it that. If we answered it honestly, a lot of us are probably a little bit more stressed than we should be.
Yeah. And as entrepreneurs, it's hard not to be. We so often throw ourselves in the deep end and then try to figure out how to swim. And it's been 2 years of doing that. So,
If I'm hearing it right, though, it's a flux state. It's not a static measurement for the rest of your life.
Oh, for sure.
If you are extremely stressed and working on a new project, or maybe you've neglected your diet, I assume with all of this, basic health markers are what will impact this biological age, as you put it.
Absolutely.
Your activity level, your health as far as your nutrition, your stress levels, your emotional state. I'm assuming all of that goes into this figure.
Exactly. And these are all things that our health coach and care team actually address with each of our members. We call it the health map. So
what is the difference between your health coach and your care team?
Yeah, so like I had mentioned before, we want to provide the most holistic care possible. So there's lines that health coaches won't cross, right? They won't get into a clinical setting. They won't diagnose you with anything. It's not their role. They're not licensed to. They're not qualified to. The flip of that is doctors also kind of stay in their lane. They're less willing to generally, give advice on things such as activity, nutrition. It's more of like this blanket
Training
you should-
modalities.
right, exactly.
Nutrition. Yes.
But it doesn't get very granular in most cases with a medical provider. And so that is why we combine the two. So you can get the most well-rounded, holistic, granular experience.
Very smart.
Yeah, and it's not lopsided any which way. In my opinion, health coaches are, vital as it plays into longevity.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know really what we're doing, and there's so much misinformation out there. And so by implementing a health coach, that allows us to provide the highest level of care possible for each of our members. Without it, it'd be super sterile. Again, not to overgeneralize here, but doctors are very, very busy. They're kind of just churning through patients all day. This allows us to have a more personal experience with each of our Geviti members.
Absolutely. And health coaches, if I think about them, they're almost more the first line of defense. Somebody should be seeing a health practitioner for their daily activity levels. What are they doing to avoid going to see a doctor? But it's also common sense that every single one of us will have to see a doctor in our lifetime. Of course. Something's going to happen. And when you're dealing with something like what you guys are, because you're creating and providing a comprehensive packet that's going to include things that a health practitioner cannot give. A health practitioner cannot prescribe you testosterone, cannot give you HRT. Someone in a medical position, they can do that. So having both, it really is the complete package.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so, to take it a step further, our mission is to really tailor make the whole care plan around the individual's data. And one of the really cool things that Geviti does that not a lot of other people are doing, I haven't seen anybody do it the way that we're doing it. We'll actually take your real health data, your blood biomarkers, your epigenetic data, your medical history, your goals, and our care team, which again is health coach plus medical provider, will take all of this information and custom make a supplement for you. So I don't know about you, but for the last several years, I've been every morning opening up 8 different bottles of supplements just to get my, supplement routine done. And it's, it takes about 5 minutes. There's a lot of friction in that process. I'm just buying what's available over the counter. It's not necessarily dosed specifically for me. It wasn't made for me.
When you're talking supplements, we're talking post-recovery, we're talking vitamin, like what kinds of supplements?
all of it. Nutraceuticals, okay. Anything, you go to Sprouts, right? For example, I take nicotinamide mononucleotide, I take resveratrol, I take curcumin, I take NAC. There's a few things in my stack that I keep in my stack and have for quite some time. The issue is it took me 5 minutes to get all those supplements down, and they weren't made for me. I was just, like I said, buying what's just available over the counter.
Like we all do.
Right, like we all do. The issue is that insinuates that there is a one-size-fits-all approach to supplements, and there is not.
Right.
And the industry is finally starting to recognize this. But one of the really cool things we do is we take all of this data and we group it together, and we have the health coach and the medical provider, the care team, custom make a supplement according to the individual. So everything that I've been taking for the past several years is now in one single package, and it's super convenient. And I just, it's 3 pills in the morning, 3 pills in the evening, taken with food, and I'm getting everything I've been taking for the past several years dosed specifically to me based on my real health data. We've taken out guesswork from the process, and now we have the technology to do so, and do so in a way that's responsible. Man, technology is such a big has such a big role in what we have going on. We're doing some really cool stuff with large language models. And I only mention this because, we have, we're kind of in uncharted territory here technologically. We actually have the means to remove 99% of the guesswork out of our health and to create a data-driven routine or plan that allows us to truly optimize our health for longer, healthier years, where it's sort of just been up until this point, guesswork and guessing until you get something right.
That's always been one of the big drawbacks I've had with supplements in general. And I'm speaking with a broad brush here, but most of the time, my colleagues and the people in fitness, almost all of them are latched onto some sort of a supplement line, always. And they're pushing it like it's the right hand of God because, hey, they're being paid to do so. It's a job. I get that. But it just is, it does not account for the thousands, literally thousands of different biological variables that every individual has that are different. Yes, okay, over the course of, 3 million people ingesting that supplement, maybe 80 to 90% of them will see the results that are printed on your little label. Maybe they will see an increase in their vitamin D, or they will have a better recovery drinking your protein shake. But it's accepted. That's the thing too. Everyone who buys those supplements, who strolls into GNC and asks the guy working behind the counter, "Hey, I feel like this is low. I don't have that much energy. What do you have to boost my T?" And he hands you an oral supplement and says, "That'll boost your T." Everybody just kind of accepts that, well, maybe not, but hey, I'll just risk it because what's the worst that can happen? The guy sold it to me. And that's just been the way it was. And I've gone through that. That was my health care in college. That's how I did supplements. And then I went through a period of education where I realized, hey, that's not the way this works. Seek out something more customizable. But like I said, that meant getting a naturopath, going through that. And first of all, that process is incredibly expensive. When I first started doing it, to really get what you guys have packaged and market, even 2-3 years ago, you're talking hundreds or thousands of dollars a month to get a packet made for you, to get your levels tested, and to get supplements that are actually going to, first of all, to find supplements that will actually increase your hormone levels in a legitimate way, very hard to find. If you found a legit guy, he had to have an in with a pharmacist and get you the real stuff. And some people didn't even do that. So they would go to Mexico and they would get their own. A lot of self-diagnosing, a lot of guesswork. And if you were fortunate enough to get a naturopath that actually knew what he or she was doing, a lot of money. So now this has all been streamlined.
Yeah, we've streamlined all of that. And to your note, we realize now, that is not the way to do things. The standard is shifting. So if there are people out there that are listening and, their experience is anything like what you just described, please know there is a much better way. And that's what Geviti aims to provide. And there's other great companies out there too, doing a really good job. We have just noticed some areas where they're lacking, user experience, things that could be better. A lot of these companies out there, they're offering a really great service, but man, they are price gouging. It's just ridiculous.
Without specifically calling out the names, what has been the most common setback you've found? Because you guys have gone through almost every single major competitor doing what you guys do now. What are the biggest drawbacks that you see from their process?
Yeah, lack of communication. A lot of these people will sign up for these platforms. Their favorite influencer will promote the platform and talk about how great their experience was. Come to find out that experience that the influencer is receiving is not the same experience that the average customer is receiving. And so, it's sort of this marketing gimmick. I don't doubt that the influencer receiving, a white glove service. But what we found,
and they're being paid. That's the other thing. As an influencer, that influencer is being paid to promote that product. He's going to promote it. And he's going to get a good service because the company knows I'm paying this person to promote this. I'm not going to pay him then shaft him. We're going to give him the white glove service and money.
Yeah.
So yes, of course he's going to say it's awesome.
Because that's all he knows. But we found from real customers, that is not the experience that real customers, real paying customers that just go through the normal process are receiving. They're going weeks at a time without hearing from anybody. And there's not even a communication channel to talk to anybody. When I say anybody, a doctor, a health coach, anybody qualified to give any sort of advice on anything medical related. Some of these companies, they'll have you go to a LabCorp to get your labs done. They'll send you the results, and the person that you meet with is not a doctor or a nurse or a health coach. It's somebody who is, quote, trained to read blood work.
Usually from either the company or from LabCorp.
Right, exactly.
Either one, yeah.
Just like the bare bones minimum there. And I don't know about you, but that's not really the type of person I want going through my blood work results with me. So we find lack of communication, lack of qualification, but then also too ridiculous pricing on specifically pharmaceuticals.
Yep.
Which is a problem in the industry. And
huge problem.
Right.
500x increase in cost.
Yes.
I've been to, like I said, I had a naturopath, and I've been to probably 2 or even 3 other male clinics, because they started to pop up about 2.5, maybe 3-4 years ago. And I mean, you were talking, what I know now, these companies were adding $300 to $500 a vial for testosterone to get it from their clinic, plus a membership. Plus, if you got injected at the office, there was a visit fee. Like if you had, some of them didn't even take insurance. Some of them just did cash. And so you were coming out your copay, if they accept insurance, then you're paying $300 to $400 more for the vial. Then you're paying for the visit. Again, hundreds or thousands of dollars a month it takes to do this. At least that's been my experience up until kind of now.
Yeah, well, Geviti is doing it different. I joke, for us, profit is an afterthought. Providing the best possible experience is what we're chasing. And, we have a business to run, right? We're trying to generate revenue. We're trying to grow. We need to have that mindset in order to provide a great service to the masses. But it's certainly not a profiteer mindset that we have here at Geviti. We're passing through the costs of almost everything as best as we can and providing the best possible experience. And it's only going to get better, especially as technology progresses. But yeah, I mean, like Sermorelin, right? We offer it pretty cheap. I want to say it's close to a couple $100 for a 60-day supply. Maybe it's even a 90-day supply.
And
It's a
90-day supply.
That's for the increase on growth hormone.
Yeah, it's a growth hormone secretagogue. It's a great compound. Many people out there can benefit from this, but of course, talk to a doctor.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a doctor to talk to, Geviti can provide that. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
But companies out there are marking this up to like $700, $800 for, what is it, a 90-day supply? 90-day supply. So, 200 versus 700, there's a big difference.
It's not
there.
like it's a huge, enormous gap.
Right. And there's people out there paying this. And, we're only working with the top compound pharmacies in the country as well.
That was going to be the other thing, is the big pushback from this, from an outsider not knowing, would be, okay, well, one company is selling this vial for 700. This other company is doing it for 200. I might go with the 700 because I don't trust this company doing it for 200.
100%.
When again, you don't realize just how upside down, just staying inside of the American Medical Institute, everything is so increased. Everything is gouging you on pricing. All pharmaceuticals are profit. That's the way that's the way most every doctor sees them, is how can I make as much money from this? Because people don't know. People hear they need it and they think they need it because their doctor told them, and then they get the price.
And we're trying to reshape the way that works. Like I said, we're passing through as much as we can. We're only working with the top compound pharmacies out there, people who are selling, the same exact product that we're selling, for $200 can easily sell it for $700, $800, $900 and be able to sell it. And it's the same exact thing. But, not to sit on a high horse here. We want to do things differently because we see how broken the traditional medical system is, or the traditional healthcare system.
Yeah.
And so we want to make it so accessible. There's no reason why somebody should have to pay $700 for something that will greatly impact their health when they can be paying $200 for that same thing. We shouldn't try to make it like elite to have access to these compounds and these services and this level of care, because it doesn't need to be that way. The reason why it is that way is because of our human nature, and we're innately greedy people. At least that's my belief. I think my belief.
I do.
And we're trying to get away from that. So we believe that by positioning ourselves this way, we will make this level of care so accessible, it becomes a no-brainer to the masses. And because of that, we'll find a far healthier America and hopefully world because of it. And hopefully we lead the initiative for other companies to stop marking up the cost of drugs so much and stop marking up their services and hiding fees. I mean, hidden fees is such a big thing as well. And you touched on it briefly. Total price transparency should be the normal. It should be standard. It should be required. And it's not.
No.
There's people out there that sign up for these companies and they expect to pay one thing, and when it's all said and done, they're thousands of dollars in, and they did not expect that. But there's no other option because they talk with somebody who lays out, oftentimes a really good plan and creates a compelling argument that's probably right. But it's also paired with a very, very high price tag. Mm-hmm. And we're just not doing it that way. And we'll see if it works. But I think people get behind the mission that Geviti is on.
You mentioned the impact that technology has had and the fact that you can map out someone's health in a way that really hasn't ever been achieved before. And tying that back to what you started off with, talking about your father, talking about his passing and how he wasn't somebody who had that roadmap. Mm-hmm. What exactly can these pieces of technology and the processes you guys have created detect? Can this detect cancer? Can this see that?
There are some tests that we run that are really good at screening for cancer. For example, Geviti is able to offer what's called the Gallery test. It's an epigenetic test. It screens for so many different types of cancers, and it's an at-home test kit. And so, we are able to offer stuff like that. There are key biomarkers that we look at across all of our panels that could be indicative of, any of the four horsemen: cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, type 2 diabetes, just overall metabolic health.
Say diabetes has to be in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then heart disease or cardiovascular disease. And so, we've built our panels in a way that at least touch on, each of those four, touch on biomarkers correlated to what we call the four horsemen or the four leading causes of death.
Yes.
And that's been by design. And we have, like I said, an amazing medical advisory team who all came together and created what we believe to be the best possible blood work panels available on the market today. So, and also too, it's only going to get better as technology progresses. Mm-hmm. What I was referring to before, when I first brought up the technology component, is particularly large language models, which is a discovery that we've sort of stumbled across, in recent years. ChatGPT, right? So
it's AI.
Yeah. Yep. Large language models, artificial intelligence. AI has been around forever, but now we sort of call everything that's a large language model AI. AI is so much broader than large language models, but yes.
What does it do in relation to my blood work? What does AI do integrated in Geviti?
Yeah, so what we're building is a AI that has your full health context. So it knows everything about your blood work. If you do our epigenetic test, it knows your DNA. It knows your medical history. Mm-hmm. It knows the conversations that you're having with the health coach. Of course, you can disable that for privacy reasons. You're allowed to. Mm-hmm. You're not required to use this feature. Mm-hmm. But what we're building is a super intelligence that has your full health context and ultimately can act as your ultimate health companion. Mm. Picture this, right? You do a genetic test for Geviti, and a few years down the line, we find out that this specific SNP, single nucleotide polymorphism, for lack of better words or for simple explanation, let's call it just a line of code in your DNA, is correlated with a very aggressive form of cancer. Well, I'll tell you this, your doctor, health coach, whoever is not going to know that you have that SNP because you have millions, right?
But AI might.
But AI can and will. Because it's designed to do one thing. It's designed to know about your health. We take it a step further too. Our application currently links with your smart devices. So our care team, health coach and medical provider collectively, are able to monitor your lifestyle metrics in real time. And AI can do that as well.
Lifestyle metrics like
steps,
Apple Watch, steps.
Yeah.
Oh, so it can integrate to your Apple Watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Yeah. So, my health coach and my medical provider right now can see what my heart rate variability is and how many steps I've taken today. A lot of cool information. It's just a better quality of care. It should be the standard. We have the tools and the resources to offer an exceptional level of care, but we're still living in the Stone Ages, and people don't know that there's a better option out there. And, we're trying to spread that word. But we pair large language models. I'm going to make a claim here. It's a bold claim, and this is controversial. I think within the next decade, doctors can largely be removed from, their current role and position. And that is through AI and machine learning. So
that is controversial.
Yeah.
Wow, you would never think, because obviously when we think AI, robotics, anything like that, we think, okay, I mean, the Amazon worker is not going to be here forever. That's already happening. You don't think because doctor is one of the most prestigious titles a human can have.
Yeah, which is why it's a very controversial thing to say. I don't think that doctors will be removed altogether. I just think that their role will sort of shift to be more of a educator than anything. The reason is because AI is already so good, but will just get to a level that nobody else will be able to compete with. When we have the ability to upload your real health data to the super intelligence, and the super intelligence is so well trained to the point where there's a very low probability of the super intelligence getting something wrong.
Yeah.
Compared to, a human, which
reading your chart, even an efficient human, even an expert.
Yes. Even, the most super genius.
Everything
person out there.
Surgical techniques,
right?
Everything. You're already seeing an integration of robotics in that. Like surgeries are being done in large part by robotics with surgeons, obviously, but eventually,
yeah.
Yeah,
so you pair large language model with some really good machine learning technology, and you have effectively replaced sort of what doctors do today.
It also it stands to reason that this wouldn't obviously the medical industry would have something to say about this because they rely on doctors quite heavily right now. But from the average user, from the average person, because most people don't want to see their doctor. It's not like their personal trainer, where if they enjoy it, they like it, they usually stick around with their personal trainer because they like him or her. They're like, I love the energy they bring. I love them as a friend. A lot of times they genuinely like them as a person. But nobody wants to go in for surgery. Nobody wants to go to the doctor unless you absolutely have to. And maybe even if you like your primary, you're not like excited to go see them on the regular basis. So to most of us, and I'll just say us, I really wouldn't care if it was AI generated and it printed out exactly what my levels were. It's like, oh, you're deficient in this, and this. I'll send these supplements to your house.
Exactly. And it should be that simple, and it will be that simple. And that's sort of where Geviti is trying to get to. In the next 10 years, when we look 10 years out, when I look 10 years out.
And trying to get there first.
Yeah, and it's not always about being first. We want to do things differently. We want to do things the right way. We don't want to rush something to market and pair it with some, marketing gimmicks to just get people to buy the product. And who knows, the regulatory landscape might not even allow for something like this to happen within the next decade. But technologically, we'll be able to, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Oh, I can all but guarantee you that there will be. I think a decade is ambitious. I think there will be such pushback from the medical industry in general to not, because again, you were talking about something so far beyond just the medical colleges. I mean, creating medical doctors is one of the largest businesses in the entire earth. That is, and it is so sought after. Everyone thinks if I'm a doctor, I do this, I get that, which you can have a whole conversation about how that's a lie. But as society, we just accept they went to school. They went $300,000 in debt. They have this job now. They're a doctor. You are not going to make all that go away overnight, or most likely even in 10 years.
Yeah. I hope you're wrong, but you're probably right.
Yeah.
Just also too, especially in healthcare, the regulatory framework surrounding a bunch of the nuances of healthcare moves so slow. I mean, it's such a bureaucracy.
And people there is such a, It's almost nihilistic, and I try always not to be in this mindset when it comes to something, but especially after COVID, especially after what we've seen from especially Western medicine in the last 5 years, it's very hard to not acknowledge the fact that healthy people are poor business for the medical industry. People who have their health under control, give them no money. So what does that mean? That means, well, okay, we have these hospital beds, we have an overhead, we have to have the staff, we have to have a certain number of butts sitting in those beds. How do we make sure that that happens? Well, I'll tell you what we shouldn't do is streamline these services. We should not make sure that everybody knows exactly where their health is at any given time. We need a certain percentage of the population to be ignorant enough to get sick.
Man, you're so right. That's a sad truth. It's a huge, huge profit generator, the whole medical system. And I'm not sure if Geviti and companies out there similar to Geviti will be able to make a difference that changes that dynamic. But that is what we are aiming to do. Yeah. You're right. Healthy people are not good for the traditional healthcare system.
No. They're the bane, and people who make healthy people are the bane of the existence of the medical industry.
Ostracized.
That's why I love the integration of what you've done with both a medical doctor and a wellness coach, both, because you need. I love the way I'm sure you've seen that clip of Dana White saying he will never go to a medical doctor ever again unless his back breaks or his surgery needs to happen. He's like, I'll never go to a doctor for my overall general health ever again. I'll go to a coach, a trainer, any one of the fitness professionals you see all over the internet. Those are the types of people that I'll go talk to about my daily habits.
Now, let me disclaim, I'm not poo-pooing on doctors. Like I said, I regularly, on a daily basis, have conversations with, some sort of doctor, some sort of specialist. And man, there are some brilliant minds out there, but just because you have doctor next to your name does not make you, necessarily qualified to be giving somebody health advice. Legally it does, but man, there is, even amongst doctors, so much misinformation
and a lot of unhealthy doctors.
That's right.
They themselves.
That's right.
Like I work with them. I train a lot of them. It's like your health, because you are a workaholic that is real. You are a genius workaholic who is incredible at what he or she does. But you also aren't practicing what it is you're preaching to the degree that you should be.
That's right. And also too, doctors will need to be there to help train these models and get them to a place where, they're sort of working themselves out of a job in a lot of ways. So doctors are not going to go away altogether. I just think that how care is going to be done in the future looks very different than it does today. And I think doctors' roles are going to shift into something different than what it looks like today. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think a lot of doctors feel threatened when they hear, a claim like that. But they shouldn't, because ultimately it comes down to, is the patient receiving a better quality of care across the board? And that's all that matters. And if we use AI to, get there, and that costs you, a blow to the ego, whatever. Yeah. And if that's not your primary goal as a practitioner, as a doc, if getting the best possible service to your patients is not your number one goal as a doctor, then you are the type of doctor we're talking about. You're the type of person that isn't taking health seriously. You're in this for an ulterior motive. Not sure what it is, but it isn't the right one. If the health of the people who trust you with their care, you touched on how brilliant they are. The biggest geniuses in the world, they're all doctors, and they still help more people than any health practitioner ever will. More people go to the doctor than go to the gym by a massive margin. That's a huge responsibility. And you have, as a doctor, if you don't realize the gravity of that and you do something because you want an ulterior motive to come true before the health of the people that trust you with their well-being, then, like I said, you're the type of doctor we're talking about. You need to shift your motive. Yeah. No, doctors are running businesses too. And we're seeing a lot of that online as well. I call them pill mills. We call them pill mills.
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bad actors in the space that we're sort of, going up against or competing with.
Oh, yeah.
People who will just write scripts left and right because they make a boatload of money doing so. And that's the wrong way of going about things. Semaglutide is obviously a very hot topic, and we've discussed it too.
Here we go.
We've discussed it too. But man, I get ads several times throughout the day. New companies popping up doing, semaglutide delivery. And you go to the website, you fill out a form, and it's just that simple. And then they send it to you. You're not even meeting with a doctor. And that's a problem. Semaglutide is a very powerful compound. And if misused or not used properly, it could be dangerous. It does work, no question. And, we're actually advocates of semaglutide and tirzepatide. But only when used responsibly. That is the key thing there.
What is that? What is a responsible use of semaglutide?
Yeah, it should not replace the gym, and you need to be still super dialed in with your nutrition. Those two things need to be prescribed with every single vial of semaglutide that goes out, and otherwise, it can be very, very harmful. When the compound works, you will lose a ton of weight. It puts you in a catabolic state. And so with that, you could lose a ton of muscle if you're not eating enough protein and if you're not doing resistance training, which unfortunately
my problem is with it is the way you just frameworked it. I fully agree with somebody who has their nutrition dialed in, their exercise dialed in, they know what there is, and they're doing these daily habits. Where is this market? Where are the people who have those things completed who still need semaglutide? I don't believe they exist.
Yeah.
If they aren't doing what you just said, then they will want semaglutide because they haven't dialed that in.
For sure. No, well, the issue lies in these pill mills out there that are prescribing these compounds without, the nutrition and
asking those questions,
addressing those things.
Yeah.
Because they know that they're going to get the results that they're looking for. The issue is you're losing muscle when you do these
while on it,
when you're taking these compounds and not doing the right things.
What is the half-life for semaglutide, and how long can someone stay on it? Indefinitely?
There's a lot of mixed opinions on how long somebody can.
I read up on them before we came in here. I knew we had to talk about it.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I'm not qualified to get too far into that. I'd leave that up to our care team. And everybody's different too. I don't believe that there is this one size fits all protocol. In regards to the half-life, do we have that data?
We could probably look that up. What's the half-life of semaglutide?
Yeah.
The argument I got into this actually recently with it was actually with a colleague. It wasn't with a novice. It was somebody who knew this. And I asked him, I basically made the statement that semaglutide is providing you temporary results and you cannot stay on it. So in order to get your results, you must stay on semaglutide. And he responded with something along the lines of, okay, so it's exactly like you saying you're on TRT.
No, you're not. TRT is a bit different, obviously. It's an exogenous hormone that shuts down your natural production. Semaglutide, you can definitely get off of it. The issue is people generally don't address what we just talked about, their fitness and nutrition. So they go back to the same habits that they had before that got them in that issue.
And he said the exact same thing for TRT, because TRT is used typically from individuals who, hey, I'm doing these things. I'm not seeing the results I want. I'm not as lean as I'd like to be. I'm not as strong as I'd like to feel. I'm going to try TRT. TRT and semaglutide, oftentimes people start taking them for similar but different reasons.
Sure.
They aren't seeing the results they want. They want a supplement to get it. But they are different, at least from the research that I read up and read, is that TRT, if done responsibly, is something someone can stay on for the remainder of their life.
Yeah, for sure. And it's
semaglutide is not. You cannot stay on semaglutide. You cannot shoot a vial or take, semaglutide. That's injected or is that oral? Or is it both?
There's both.
There's both.
Yeah, the efficacy of oral is far inferior to that of injections.
Because it has to be digested, you lose the potency. Yeah, but regardless, you can take TRT responsibly every week, as I have for the last 5 years, and you will get to your optimal level, hopefully, and you will stay there. And you, as long as you are taking TRT, you will get the results that you are looking for.
Yes.
Semaglutide, if taken responsibly, you will get the results that you're looking for a time.
Yeah, and then get off of it and make sure that you have the the lifestyle aspect in check. Otherwise, you're just going to fall back into the same patterns. The issue, that needs to be addressed are the habits that people have. It's our habitual nature. We fall back into the same patterns. We need to learn how to break those patterns. We need to develop new habits. And also humans generally lack discipline. Even the most disciplined human,
our
stumbles.
default is to not. You have to have, there's so much to be said about that. It's so incredibly different from motivation. Discipline is doing it when you do not feel motivated to do anything.
For sure. Yeah. Again, we're advocates, when used responsibly, of semaglutide and tirzepatide. I don't think that it needs to be something that you're on for life. I don't think it should be. I think you should be able to achieve the results that you're looking for and get off of it. But it really comes down to, are you doing the right things when you get off of it?
Shifting to TRT and testosterone, because that's probably the compound most people are most familiar with. It's probably the one they're going to ask the most about after they see this episode. How would one know if they are running low? What would be the indicators in everyday life? Hey, I should probably go get this tested. I don't feel a certain way. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it could look like a million different things. Lethargy, lack of libido, brain fog, sometimes people lack confidence in themselves. They become depressed. It could take many forms.
Poor sleep. That's
poor
one.
sleep.
Yeah.
That can for sure affect your testosterone. Overexertion. There's many different things and things to look for as it relates to symptoms of low testosterone. But why guess? Just go get blood work done.
Exactly. That's the thing that I wanted to emphasize quite strongly from this is it does not matter what your goals are, where you think you're at, where you're really at, what your chronological age is, what your biological age is. No matter who you are, if you're alive and breathing and have ears to hear this podcast, you should know what your biomarkers are. You should know where your health is at. Why in the world? Because it is no longer a $5,000 5-hour ordeal to learn that information. You can get that done, and you can get that done relatively easily.
Yes. Yeah. It's 2024. There is no excuse to not know how your body is functioning and what's going on under the hood. To mention my father again, he did a lot of the right things, but where he went wrong was not looking at what was actually happening underneath the hood.
Yeah, you mentioned he trained 5 days a week.
Oh,
Think about how many millions, forget thousands. Think about how many millions of people do not train 5 days a week and don't look under the hood.
Yeah, he was in love with it. Man, we would go to the gym together. We'd have a great time. But that's not enough. And nutrition isn't always enough either. It's just, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But let's just remove any sort of anxiety behind it and any guesswork, and let's just go and look. In 2024, we have the tools available to do so in a way that is very, very easy and convenient and affordable. And you don't need to use insurance. We don't work with insurance. It's cash pay. I don't want to get controversial again, but, insurance, in my opinion, is, largely responsible for a lot of the issues in our current medical system.
You have two industries intermingled with one another, and again, profit. Both have profit. Only one of them has a real interest in seeing people actually get better, maybe. But insurance is not that one.
Yeah, for sure. We do HSA and FSA. So we do those, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be on top of your health in 2024 unless you're kind of at this point actively choosing not to. If it's not Geviti, there's a lot of great online resources that make a similar sort of care convenient.
Do you have to be a certain age in order to get onboarded and get tested?
Yeah, with us 18. Yeah.
Okay. So if someone because if I had a kid under the age of 18, I would get his biomarkers tested. With parental consent, can these tests still be performed?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You need your parent to sign off. Also, too, the panels might look a little different as well if you're
under the age of 18.
Right.
Developmental stages and everything that goes with it. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. We're definitely geared towards adults, of course. we're generally targeting people over the age of 30.
Mm-hmm.
However, not to say that you can't be under the age of 30 and be deficient in, your testosterone levels or
We
have
both know
other-
somebody who was.
Yeah, for sure.
Scores of I think he got his testosterone. He was 24 and got a testosterone count of under 300 was his count. And that's very common. That leads up a great question as well, which is because I have referred or sent in, I don't know, 2 or 3 dozen different people to either my primary or now hopefully to you guys to get tested and get their biomarkers looked at, and specifically testosterone in males. I'm talking all of these guys were under 40. No one came back like, oh no, I'm good. They said I'm optimal. I don't need anything. Everyone is running low. Any indication on why that is?
Yeah, I mean, just look at our lifestyles.
Yeah.
Most people are not nearly as active as they should be. We sit in a chair most days. Most people do anyway. We're behind screens most of the day. There's a lot of different sort of theories
Poor
as to
food,
why.
eating out of
diet.
plastics, our water. There's a lot of different things and this is another thing, again, to hammer in the point of getting these tests done. There are a lot of things in your life you're never going to be able to control. We cannot all be, the carnivore MD and go live in Puerto Rico in a hut. Like, we live here and we live in Arizona. We drink the water from Arizona. We eat the food that's grown here. We can't help that. And if there is something in that is being poisoned, that is causing these deficiencies in our levels or causing any irregularities in our levels, which, I mean, I should never have been deficient. If anybody should have gone in there and come back with like an optimal score, it should have been me, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of the, the most freak athletes out there who are also low in testosterone, and they feel it too. So I don't know if it's any one thing. It's probably a little bit here, a little bit there.
Combination of things.
I don't think it's been proven what's causing low testosterone.
Right.
I do think it is.
But it's been proven that it's declining.
Oh, for
it's
sure.
been very proven over the last 10 years that
Can't
male
argue that.
testosterone is dropping.
Yeah, it's a problem. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be in optimal ranges either, whether it's TRT or a TRT alternative, a non-exogenous hormone alternative, which are out there, are safe, and are very affordable. Geviti makes them accessible as well. There's no reason why you shouldn't be living in the optimal ranges. That's what we're about.
What is the optimal range?
Well, it varies. Depending on your age, we'd have to look at the chart because there's the reference ranges and then there's the optimal ranges within those reference ranges.
So just to say between the ages of 30 to 35, testosterone count should be, if optimal...
Yeah, above 850 for sure.
Above 850?
Yeah.
Okay. And any biomarker they should be beneath?
Any biomarker they should be beneath.
Excuse me, any testosterone level they should be, like, what's too high? So 850
anything
up to...
probably over 1100, 1200.
Got
I
it.
think. Don't quote me on that. We have a chart somewhere. Our medical team, they're the people to ask, but I do know, generally you want to be above 850, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be. There's also a lot of people don't understand there are TRT alternatives out there, and clomiphene has gotten really popular over the past several years. Geviti offers a alternative to even clomiphene. We call it Test Booster. It has Clomid and a few other things in it.
I played around with Clomid. That's for the production of one's own testosterone. Am I correct on that? It's a fertility drug.
Yeah, oftentimes it's taken, for fertility purposes.
A lot of times people will take Clomid if they have previously been on TRT for pregnancy purposes.
Yeah, to kick back on, what is it there, FSH or LH, or maybe it's both.
I believe it's FSH.
Go to the Test Booster.
But just a little public service announcement, if you are on Clomid, be careful because you're fertile.
Yes.
Know that.
Yeah. HCG is another one that people take.
Yep, that's my favorite.
Yeah, I've been taking that and also used for fertility purposes.
Yeah.
And by the time this episode comes out, we'll have already announced it, but we're expecting number 2.
Oh, yeah.
So
good job, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, this one right here, we know.
While on HCG?
Oh, HCG specs with Clomid for sure.
Okay.
Or in clomiphene.
Yeah.
But this T booster complex that Geviti offers, it's clomiphene, 7 keto DHEA, progesterone, and optional, very low dose anastrozole, very, 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 very low dose anastrozole to keep your E2 at bay. Some people have no issues with that, so we can remove the anastrozole altogether. But I've seen people start taking that. Very, very high efficacy, great safety profile, and their testosterone spikes dramatically, and they notice it. So Geviti has options. It's not just TRT. It's TRT alternatives as well. Something that we do that now we're actually starting to see other people do on the market, oral testosterone replacement therapy. So it was in 2019, the FDA approved a new testosterone modality called testosterone undecanoate. And little brief history lesson, TRT actually was originally done orally, but we found that it was very toxic for your liver. People were quite literally dying from liver failure. And so it was banned outright until 2019. The FDA approved this new form, which actually doesn't pass through the liver. It goes through your lymphatic system. And it has a 96% efficacy and a very, very, very great safety profile. In a lot of ways safer than injections.
Really?
Yes.
How?
Injections give you these super physiological spikes in your testosterone levels. And we find that's actually where a lot of these side effects come into play.
Meaning I take my injection, my testosterone shoots up, then as the week progresses, if I haven't tiered it properly, it will go back down.
Exactly, which is why it's advised, at least here at Geviti, to split your doses if you are on testosterone cypionate into twice a week. Even 3. I've been doing 3. I subdivide my little vial 3 different ways, and and I understand the need for this, an oral testosterone supplement, simply from the standpoint that a lot of people are not comfortable pricking themselves 3 times a week to get the same result they could if they just took something like this. Right.
And if, because the reason I shifted away from everything oral was because of what you just said. I didn't want my liver enzymes impacted. I did not want to mess with anything in my GI tract. I wanted it to be straight in through the blood-brain barrier and hit me.
Yeah. A lot of people too. I mean, there's a lot of friction behind this. If you can split it up into daily subcutaneous shots, that works as well. But, there's obviously work and prep that goes into that. And then the barrier of injecting is a real thing.
Some people just don't like needles. There's no Eli.
And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine.
Don't
That's
pass
fair, right? Nobody loves needles. Nobody's like, itching to,
Maybe tattoo artists.
Some people, but most people aren't
not.
itching to, inject themselves. So there's options for those people. Cypionate is still the tried and true, go-to. But make sure you're at least splitting it up. Again, not medical advice, but splitting it up into at least twice a week.
Oh, yeah. That's very practical advice. And that's something I've heard from not just you, the many, many, many professionals that are in this. They do not recommend taking your full dose on Monday and then waiting and doing it again next Monday. They advise tiering it and doing it throughout the week so your body provides much more of a baseline. It doesn't spike and shoot up and then drop. That's not what you want from this. And that's the other thing from TRT that I tell people. I'm like, you probably shouldn't really be feeling it. I mean, when you do your injections, it should be a small enough amount to where you're not feeling like, oh my word, I'm overwhelmed. I must have done my shot today. Like, no, you probably should just kind of stay at your level and stay there all week.
Yeah,
ideally.
exactly. Yeah. If we can avoid as best as possible those, super physiological spikes, our testosterone levels change throughout the day as well. That's something that not a lot of people care to recognize.
High in the morning when we wake up.
It correlates to our circadian rhythm, right? And so the nice thing about oral tea is it matches that really, really well. You can achieve the same thing with daily subcutaneous shots. And so for people who are really trying to match, what their body should be doing naturally, oral is a great option. It's twice daily oral. Daily subcutaneous, but you are mitigating a ton of the potential side effects by simply splitting your doses out, 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
Not medical advice.
Practical advice though, it It's 100%. I mean, even someone like me who, I mean, I have a very optimal range higher than 1,000, but I don't have the side effects of high blood pressure, prostate problems, liver issues. I don't have any of that. And I get all my markers done every time I go in. But that's because I split it all up throughout the week and I don't do those massive doses. I'm not doing a lot anyway, but I'm not doing it all at once.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a lot of T clinics out there that don't check. You mentioned your prostate. These clinics aren't checking your PSA. They'll have people on testosterone for years. And I'll talk to these people and I'll ask about their blood work that they're receiving at this clinic. And I haven't found somebody who is testing for PSA, especially, I mean, they've been on it for years. You'd think that at least throw PSA into one of their panels.
Oh, I had to specifically ask for it. And I, again, when I went into the clinic that I'm in now, this was, like I said, this was my third clinic. So I knew exactly what I wanted to see. And I'm like, look, I need you to show me these every 2 months when I get tested here. I want you to look at that, because if I'm going to be running this, I know what my risk is. And this is not without risk. That is the other thing to make sure everybody understands when it comes to anything foreign going in your body. You are striving for quality of life, and you are doing so with a foreign substance. That's not without risk.
Of course. And we're here to literally walk you through the whole process and stay on top of your levels as well. If we notice any abnormalities, we're going to address that immediately. That's the nice thing about Geviti. We're here and we're accessible. And you know, a lot of this is automated. For example, just by being a member, we'll send somebody out to your house every 6 months to do a full panel. No added cost. It's just part of the membership. So by default, at the very least, by being a Geviti member, you're getting your levels checked twice a year, which is at minimum, you know, an opportunity for us to address any abnormalities or any issues that
Concerns that might be coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, too, paired with any of our HRT options here at Geviti, we send a spot check to the individual's house, that finger prick test I had mentioned earlier. That test for all of the key hormones that we're talking about here, plus any biomarkers that are associated with those things, so that we can make sure that, you know, these plans, these protocols that we're putting into place are actually generating optimal results. It's simple. Our goal, when you look at our charts and our reports, our goal is to have each Geviti member fall in the optimal range down the line. And if you're out of that range, we're going to address that acutely with proper technique and you know, a data-driven and science-driven approach, and you know, address why you're not in the optimal range there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't care to get granular enough to you know, provide that level of care. Luckily, there's not a lot of options on the market that use technology the way that we do, which is interesting. A lot of this can be done so easily, but you know, there's not a lot of tech people in the healthcare
In the
space.
health, yeah, it's still a relatively new space. Speaking specifically about the, you know, private practice, something that's designed to do your optimal human existence, this type of service. Like I said, I my first experience even finding a male clinic was not more than maybe 4 years ago. So this type of healthcare is still relatively new, but it's being improved, and you guys have gotten, as nothing's ever perfect, but it's certainly better than anything else that I have found on the market so far.
Yeah, and we've positioned ourselves in a way to really, you know, be malleable. For example, what I mean by that, right? I also believe that we're sort of going to be done with phlebotomy or venous blood draw in the next decade as well. I think that testing, you know, if we want to talk hard tech a little bit, testing technology is getting really, really good. It's not perfect yet, but it is growing at an exponential rate. And I believe that there's a not so distant future where we're able to, with a very small sample volume, get a ton of data out of that, and not have to send a phlebotomist out to somebody's house to get, you know, enough blood to test for enough biomarkers. I think that's going to change, and we're positioned to move with the market. When those changes happen, We plug that right into what we have going on. New technological innovation, new scientific discovery. If a new compound comes out that is very anti-cancer or helps with any of the things that we're kind of addressing here at Geviti, we can just plug that right in. Also, to our pharmacy partners, awesome. They are very much geared towards longevity-centric care. They are building compounds, compounding these drugs that are, designed to achieve everything that we're talking about here. They're not working with, they're not making painkillers or stuff like that. They've really narrowed their sights and found their niche in the longevity space. And that's really cool. So everybody that Geviti associates with, whether it's our pharmacy or anybody else, we all share the same mission. It's maximum longevity. Let's increase health span and lifespan simultaneously. And I believe that we're all going to, unless we get hit by a bus, we all have the ability to see 100 and see it healthy. Some people out there, they make claims 140, 200, it gets crazy. We don't have to speculate. But none of those claims sound crazy far-fetched either, just simply because of how much we've discovered in the past decade.
If someone wants to get started and go through the onboarding process, find your website, how would you, if someone hears this and wants to get a part of it, what would they do?
Go to gogeviti.com. That's Geviti.
Oh, look at Joe. You look so good.
Geviti with the I at the end. Play on the word longevity, obviously.
Yep.
Gogeviti.com. Click any button on our website that says get started. And we'll start by making sure you're eligible.
Join Geviti right there. Yep.
We're in 12 states. We'll be in all 50 by the end of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing,
If you're somewhere where we're not currently servicing, shoot us an email.
Yeah.
And we'll get you set up. We want to hear from you. We for sure want to know, where we should go next.
Yeah.
But it's that simple. The page following this will prompt you to select your blood work package. We have 3 different tiers. A base tier is $300. The top tier is $600. We're testing minimum 67 biomarkers up to 85 plus. And then we have the subscription, which is access to health coaching, at-home RX delivery, custom supplements, so many other things. You can find out all of this on our website. And currently, right now, that is $89 a month. You're grandfathered in at that rate for life. We're just doing sort of a beta promo. We had a very successful seed round of financing that got us to go to market. And so we're running a little, promotion because of that. And you could pay quarterly as well for 17% off. So prepay 3 months comes out to, I believe, $75 if you prepay 3 months. And it's just that simple. It'll prompt you to schedule, pick your blood work, pick your membership package, schedule your blood work. It'll take you to the app. You'll be greeted by your designated health coach immediately. And then you have direct access immediately right off the rip with a real human that you can talk to about health and wellness, even while you're waiting for your blood work, even before you've gotten your blood work done, and while you're waiting for your results to get back. We make the human connection very, very, very accessible. And we designed it that way from the beginning because we figured that's the best way of going about it. And come to find out, that's a big issue with others in the industry. They lack that.
Yeah.
They're just not doing that.
Very impressive. Everything, what you've done, the way you've integrated it, the way your branding is featured. It's good, man. You guys have done incredible work.
Thank you. Yeah, we're super excited about what we have, but we're also super excited about the future. What's really cool, what we're building, the AI that we're building, the longer you are with us, the better product you're going to receive, the more we're going to know about you. And when I say we, the care team and AI collectively, that is going to translate to just a level of care that you cannot find anywhere else. And so, of course we want you to be with us for life, but truly, if you are, you're going to
Yeah.
reap so many benefits in doing so. And that's our goal. It's it's a data-driven approach made streamlined. It's that simple.
Well done, bro. I'm very excited to see what it does, even over the next, just 6 months to a year now that you guys have officially launched.
Yeah.
So good job, Eli.
you.
Good job.
2 years in the making, man.
Yeah, man. Well, anything takes 10 years. You know that.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. But thanks for coming in. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching that episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. If you like the content and you want to see more of it, hit the like and subscribe. Activate that notification bell as well. We really appreciate it. If you guys want to see more of it, we actually have the Becoming the 1% Instagram, and the podcast is available on Spotify. For our socials, we have Strict Vision Athletics on Instagram, we have it on YouTube, and we have it on TikTok.